Hello, beautiful soul. Welcome to the Elevate Your Soul podcast. Today, I'm interviewing Ronnie Landis, a high performance health expert, mind body mastery coach, author, teacher, and founder at Holistic Health Mastery. Today, Ronnie and I are going to discuss poverty and ways that we can help heal poverty in the Western world. If you want to get in touch with Ronnie after this episode, you can find him on Facebook at Ronnie Landis or on Instagram at Ronnie, that's RONNIE _ Landis, LANDIS. And you can find me on Instagram at arel.hug.love. I hope you guys enjoy this podcast episode. Hello, Ronnie. Welcome to the Elevate Your Soul podcast.
My pleasure to be here.
So nice having you. Can you tell us about who you are and what your background is, please?
So my background is in the last 11 years professionally. My background has been in the holistic health world as a holistic health teacher, a nutritionist, a personal transformation coach. I focus a lot of my work on the intersection between our psychology and our physiology, being our health of our body, what we put in our mouth as in food, nutrition, and really peak performance strategies to help people live a more vital life, a more vibrant life, a healthier life, full of, infinite amounts of energy so they can put that energy into what they love to do. That to me is really my perspective about health, and why I'm so excited about health is helping people have all the health and vitality. So not only they can live as long as they want to live to fulfill their mission on the planet, but they have all the energy to do that at the same time. So that's a little bit about, my passion around health and nutrition. Besides that, I was raised as a martial artist and a high performance athlete. So as a young child, I was raised in the world of traditional martial arts, Eastern philosophy, spirituality, a little bit about metaphysics at that time. Philosophy, just really thinking about many different things around life and personal development. How can I continue to get better as an athlete, as a martial artist, but just also as a person? How can I improve my life? How can I improve all the areas of my life so I can become a fully functional human being, integrated, and I can do my work on the planet? And I think I've always had a focus on personal development. I've always had this thing inside of me that knew that I could grow more, that I could do more. I could expand into whatever it is that I want to do in my life. I just have to put forth the right attitude and the effort and the energy and dedicate myself. And that's been my life path, just pushing the boundaries of what's possible. And that's led me here to this conversation.
Awesome. I love it. The first question I want to ask you is, what elevates your soul?
Ooh, okay. What elevates my soul? How do I put that into words? Well, it's very much what I said. It's pushing the boundaries of what is possible. And what I mean by what is possible is what I believe is possible, and how to go to the next level, how to 10x what I believe is possible, and make that a reality and make that my life. That elevates my soul, because that also creates a ripple effect into all the people that I come across, all the people that come into my world. I get to actually amplify everybody else's energy by first focusing on amplifying my own, and going from there. So that elevates my soul.
I love that. So today's topic is how we can start to heal poverty. And before I dive into that, I'd like to ask you, what is the purpose and the value of money in our worlds?
Okay. Well, this is a big topic. There's a lot of distinctions, and there's a lot of things that I think are going to be really, really powerful for people. So to the first question, what is the purpose and energy of money? Well, so this is a good segue. So when people think of poverty, oftentimes they're mostly focused on money. They're focused on the end product, right? Yeah. And I want to help people in this conversation maybe shift their perspective and disassociate from money a little bit, and focus on the phenomena itself and the energetics and those things that actually create the money or the absence of money in the first place. And so just really simply put, my perspective around money is that it's neutral. It's not good. It's not bad. In fact, it is more good than not, because it is our form of exchange in the world, right? In
Yeah.
every single culture before we had dollar bills with dead presidents on it. We had coins, we had precious metals, we had noble metals like gold, for example.
Yeah.
We had, in the Aztec culture, they had cacao beans. The Maya and the Aztec culture, the cacao bean, which is where all chocolate comes from, was their form of exchange.
Nice.
They actually exchanged a certain amount of cacao beans like they would pesos, and that's how they did it. So basically, money is used as a form of exchange of value for something else.
Yeah.
The energy around money is very interesting, and we could probably do a lot of deep dives into it.
Please.
It's really the exchange of value. And that's the best way that I can say it, to help other people understand how to get more of it.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's really what people are concerned about. They want to know, how do I get more of it? Well, you have to provide value. And you can break that down to the microcosm of the most basic thing, all the way to, conversations around, in the internet's entrepreneurialism, and all this is very an influencer culture. This is a very hot topic. A lot of people are really wrapped up in this, but it doesn't change. Ultimately, no matter what you're doing, millions of dollars or tens of millions, and I don't make that right now. I aspire to, but I have a lot of friends and mentors that are playing at that level. And I can tell you, it's the same exact game played on a bigger playing field. And the game is, how do I provide the most amount of value to the specific people that I'm serving and supporting?
Yeah.
That's, simply said, that's what I feel like money really is in our world.
And to add value, do you need to know what your purpose is and what your passion is to add value to?
No, people are creating value given the agreements and the job occupation and the requirements. They're providing value, and they're receiving money in exchange for that value, but they may not be passionate about that. Right. So it's not, and that's what I mean. Money is neutral. And I think a lot of the kind of like, a lot of the information and what I call kind of magical thinking on the internet, there's a lot of confusion around this particular topic in terms of like, okay, I need to find my purpose. I need to find my passion. My personal opinion is, you need to get to work.
Yeah.
Whatever that work is, wherever you are right now, focus on being of value, because that will inform you about what your purpose really is. And some of us find it earlier than others. When I was a child and growing up, my purpose was martial arts. My purpose was to be a great athlete. My purpose was to go to the Olympics. My purpose was to, do all these things. But you see, it didn't all come at once. I had to get into the game first. I couldn't be a spectator, just kind of philosophizing about like, okay, just thinking on what's my purpose and sitting on the stands while everyone else is playing the game, having a good time. I had to get in the game. And then from that, and developing myself, getting better at the game I chose to play, it gave me new opportunities that led me more into things that maybe I didn't know I liked to do, but it gave me an opportunity to do that and meet different people. And it went from there. So I'd say, like, if somebody is really in that place where they're waiting to find their purpose, or they're waiting to be inspired, the most inspiring thing you can do is to shift your energy and put it into some kind of direction that actually produces results.
Right. So it's like starting that momentum.
That's right.
Very important.
Yes. It's a momentum game. Life is all about momentum, and money is about momentum.
Yeah. And what do you mean by that? Money is momentum.
Okay, so when you think of momentum and you think of the energy behind momentum, it's literally, momentum is about creating a carrier wave in our life. So when you're doing something consistently and you keep doing it, you notice that energy starts to build up, and all of a sudden it feels like everything's kind of coming together. And the more you pour into that, it kind of becomes a snowball. And energy is very much like that. I notice in my businesses, one of the biggest insights I gained from, I have a particular business where I work with a lot of different people. in kind of a sales orientated environment.
Yeah.
And I notice when I back off and I stop producing momentum, everyone around me stops producing momentum too. It's almost like an interesting phenomena that happens. But when I get into the game and I'm moving, I'm pushing buttons, I'm in it, I'm showing up, I'm talking to people, I'm calling people, all of a sudden this energy starts to build. And
Yeah.
then more than I could do by myself starts to get created. So what I'm saying is that you're creating a carrier wave of energy that will start to carry you further than you could do by yourself. People will come on board. There'll be kind of like this infectious energy that starts to build.
Yeah.
And the key is to keep it going, to stay. And that's why people say consistency is everything, because it creates the energy that you're trying, the inspiration that you're trying to get to.
Yes. And what if you are consistent and having movement towards something that you're passionate about and adding value to other people's lives, but you're not earning money with it yet? Or, for example, all of these people in the spiritual community, all of the healers, yoga teachers, Reiki healers, breathwork coaches, podcast hosts, things like that. What would you say to people in that field?
So this is really great where we're going with this. I really like this. So what you have to do is you have to identify what's your strategy, because you could be providing value and you could be doing all the right things, but if you don't have a strategy for how to translate your efforts and your activity into money, then it might come in spurts, or somebody gives you a donation and stuff, and that's great. But what you want to do in a business, you want to create a piping system. So the money needs something to come through, right? You need to create the piping system for your form of exchange. So in a occupation, if you're working for someone else, most likely that business has its piping system built in.
Yeah.
It has a very clear, there's not a lot of emotion around it. It's just clear. It's mechanic.
Money.
Right? That's right. Yeah. Like this is how we make money, right? Like getting to that level. So if you are one of these people, and I was there at some point too, I was very foggy. I was vague, very general about what I was doing. It wasn't until I started to understand a little more about business and a little more about money, and understanding that, oh, if I just actually tweak a few things, I have everything in place like you're talking about, but now I just need to actually create a piping system from the value I'm giving. That could be, in our world, we see like ebooks or some way to monetize, basically, right?
Okay.
Whatever that is. And then that's your value. And then you could get infinitely more advanced, but that's the basic idea. That's the idea behind marketing. So find a way to actually market yourself, that basically marketing is telling, it's telling other people about you in some way.
Yeah.
So promoting yourself, sharing yourself, you cannot do it in a vacuum. And in our day and age, there's so much noise out there that you have to find out what makes you unique in the particular market that you're serving, whether it's yoga, coaching, healing, podcasting, whatever it is. If you want to make that your vehicle, double down on your particular interests, that might make you unique in that category. So you're the person who owns that particular niche, if you will, and you start there. And then you find out what is the problem or the thing that I'm trying to help other people alleviate or solve in their life, and then become committed to helping people get results in that area.
Yeah. And it's really important as well to get a mentor sometimes. Sometimes we need a coach if we don't understand money that much, or we don't know how to package ourselves or how to present ourselves in a way to make more of a living, if that's what we're wanting to. Get a coach and get someone who is experienced in that field. And that's exactly very good suggestion. You need to have somebody who's been there and who's charted the course and can help you discover the way that you can do it, right? And in the beginning, if you haven't done something, you don't know how to do it. So first step is I have to admit to myself, I don't know how to get to the next step. I know where I want to go,
but I don't know how to. I have belief systems. I have ideas that may not be producing the results I want. I got to be
Yeah.
honest with myself that I need help. And I think just as a human, emotional, mental health perspective, we've gotten into a place where we think that we can do it by ourselves. We
Yes.
think that we should do it by ourselves.
So true.
And it's, it's obviously a fear-based perspective. And we have to open ourselves up a little bit to realize, you know what? I need support. I need help. And
It's a
finding
bit of
support
a quieting of ego as well. Like it's quite, I think it's
oh
usually
yeah,
the ego as well that says, I don't need help. I can figure this out on my
right.
own. Everything that I need is within me. Half true. We're interdependent beings, not independent.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And a good mentor will help you unravel that ego stronghold.
Yeah,
You need
exactly.
somebody that you don't want to hire your best friend. You need somebody that intimidates you and inspires you at the same time, because you're not
Hmm.
hiring somebody to be your friend. It
Yeah.
can translate into a friendship, but there must be a clear distinction. If you're going to martial arts for the first time, like your teacher's not your friend. Your parents, when you're growing up, they're not your friends. There is that natural maturation and evolution of a relationship, but those are the people that are entrusted with your welfare until you actually get to the place where you can take care of yourself. So it's humility, and it's just not getting what am I trying to say, not getting the relationship dynamics confused, because that's what I've seen can throw people off.
Yeah.
And there's drama and weird things like that. This is a drama free zone. Like, I'm going there to get coaching, I'm going there to get help, and this person is going to hold a space for me and hold a mirror for me, so I can actually come to clarity about what I'm doing.
Yeah. Yeah. So true.
Yeah,
So true. Can I shift the conversation now
please,
to
please.
what things can the world do, other people do, and most importantly, what can we do, people who are listening to this podcast episode, to help with
Mm,
poverty?
okay. Well, the first thing that
Big
all of us
question. Big question.
big question, but I mean, I think the first thing that we need to do is we need to reverse the magnifying glass and turn that in on ourselves. Before we try to go out there and save the world, we gotta make sure that, is my house in order?
Right.
Do I have my house in order? Am I, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
we have to focus on ourselves. And my belief is that if every individual, or 10% of the population, only took that approach,
Yeah.
the ripple effect would be so massive that it would catalyze more and more people to take responsibility for their lives.
So you're
And
saying 10% of people to take care of themselves?
like, in the entire
Yeah.
grand scale of our
Yeah.
population, if 10% of our population took that seriously and focused on themselves, their families,
Yes.
and got that in order first,
Yeah.
it would create a ripple effect in the neighborhoods, the families, the distant like, everyone would be affected by that, because ultimately
Yeah.
the source of the issue is responsibility. In our
Right.
culture, we have completely lost what it means to be totally responsible for ourselves.
We don't want to be responsible for ourselves, you mean?
Yeah, well, we've been taken care of. We've been taken care of, quote
Right.
unquote, throughout the systems that actually perpetuate poverty.
Yes. And for people who are listening who think that you're just saying be selfish and be vain and conceited by taking care of yourself, what's the difference between that and taking responsibility of your own life?
Well,
Just
it's a,
want clarity
it's a
around that.
monumental difference. The only reason people become selfish or vain or narcissistic is because they've foregone personal responsibility. So there's a tendency to blame, to shame, and have probably are what's the word I'm looking for? Not codependent. That maybe, but the entitlement. We
Right.
need to shift entitlement, and that's what I'm talking about. This has nothing to do with all that is a byproduct of what we're talking about. It's really about it's shifting the entitlement thing, meaning nobody outside of me is going to save me. Nobody is going to do it for me. My health is my responsibility. My finances are my responsibility. The welfare of my family, et cetera, That's my responsibility. And I need to take that on for me. What that means is that you do become self-centered, which is different than becoming selfish.
Okay.
Self-centered means that you're the hero in your story. Who the heck else are you focusing on more than yourself?
Right.
Like we need to be centered within ourselves, because we can't actually make good decisions unless we're grounded and centered beforehand.
Yeah. Yeah.
So hopefully that distinction makes sense.
Yeah. Self-care.
Yeah, self-care,
Responsibility.
self-caring, caring for ourselves enough.
Self-loving. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, when you love yourself and you care for yourself, then you care and love other people. How can one truly love another if they don't give themselves that same treatment?
Yeah. How can someone truly take care of someone else and know what's best for someone else if they don't know what's even best for themselves?
And
Or can take care of
that's
themselves?
it. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah. And okay, so that's taking care of ourselves, taking responsibility of ourselves.
Okay,
Can
so
we,
that's an important piece of it.
okay.
Um, the other piece that I was thinking about earlier was that we can't, so to speak, prevent poverty. Poverty is a phenomena. I don't want to I'm not talking about poor people or
Right.
any titles or any judgments. I'm talking about the phenomena of poverty in the world.
Yeah.
It's not something that we can prevent, so to speak. But what I would say is that focusing on educating the next generation, empowering the next generation, because people, just like, I don't know if you're in your work, I definitely know for me and my work, I've tried to change all the adults,
Yeah.
and some people are raised, some people aren't. But when the patterns and the belief systems and the behaviors are so ingrained,
Mm,
it is significantly harder for
yeah.
that person to make a complete turnaround versus empowering the younger
Yes.
generations in a
100%.
way that they don't have to undo all that trauma and all that
Yeah.
rewiring work. They're already a fresh slate. In fact, they know what to do ahead of time, but we just have to create the environment and create the pipeline, create the opportunities for them to thrive. And I think that's what we're seeing in our world. There's a huge tide that's happening.
Yeah.
And so that's the only real way I know how to prevent the future of impoverishment
Yeah.
is by empowering the youth.
And education.
That's right. Yeah, education.
And
Real education.
education, free education in schooling or
I mean, I mean, the whole thing, the whole
yeah.
conversation of education
Yeah.
in general. I mean, what's interesting is like, I think about the institutions that forego freedom, the institutions that are designed against freedom, which
Yeah.
is like all the institutions that hold society together.
Yes.
And the education being the primary indoctrination system for all the children. And I want to go on a tangent, but this is an interesting note that I have. The way that our society is built in the family structure and the way that that's been altered through economic pressure. You have the parents that are going off to whatever their jobs are. They're not integrated in the home necessarily. So the child is essentially sent off to a babysitting institution
Yes.
where the responsibility for that child's education has been given over to the state. It's been
Yeah.
given over to, you see how that all ties in?
Yeah.
So that in of itself is a big situation. I'm not really invested in that. My children are not going to have anything to do with that at all. They'll probably won't even know it's a thing until they're 10 or 12, like
Right.
how I envision playing that out. But for the
Yeah.
average person, just understand that when I say education, I mean all education. What's cool, just shifting the energy of this, what's really cool about our world in the technological age, you could say all the negative things about technology, and there's plenty, but the amazing thing is that it has bridged so many worlds that would not exist to most of us if it weren't for the access to free information. The only thing we want to be careful about is that we have so much information coming to us so much that it can be challenging to weed through all the things coming at us.
Yeah.
So what I would say is specific and intentional education is key, and we have access to all of that.
Yeah. With technology.
Yes.
Yes. And books.
And but yeah, I mean, I really recommend, by the way, for everyone listening, like
Yeah.
as amazing as podcasts are, and as amazing as audiobooks and everything, and definitely learn the way that you learn best.
Yes.
There's nothing like reading a book. I mean, this gives me an opportunity to bring this up. Like this little book right here, As a Man Thinketh by James Allen. This
Hmm.
book was written in the early 1900s. I read this book, I want to say when I was like 14 or 15, maybe 16.
Yeah.
This is one of the most incredible books in the world. And and it's just this little thing right here. If you had this and you took this around with you and you just kind of opened it up and, like, let me just flip open. Oh, the effect of thought on health and body. Oh, let me look, let me read that. It's
Right.
it's that act of like engaging yourself with the detailed structured thoughts of somebody that probably had the same problems as you, probably had it way worse.
Yeah.
Studying the lives of other people to get perspective on how much abundance and opportunity we really have, and then taking in the wisdom to actually do something about it.
Yes. And I feel that some people are naturally more curious beings. They ask why a lot. They're curious about things. They want to investigate. They want to inform themselves. They want to understand life and people and things. And for those people where curiosity is a little less of a natural instinct to
Sure.
them,
Sure.
how do people get inspired to get educated and learn about things? Like for people who are like, I don't even know what I think is interesting, what I want to learn about, what do I want to read about? How do they find that inside themselves, that curiosity of why and how,
Mm.
what?
Well, it just comes down to, reason. Like, what is the reason? You have to find a reason for why you're doing something. Like, I don't really, that's hard for me to answer because I don't know one human being that's not interested in something.
Right.
Right? Just on this conversation, most people are interested in money. They want
Mhm.
more of it. Well,
Yeah.
okay, great. Let's find out who has done that, and let's start there. You open that box, like whatever, because that whole thing of like, oh, I'm not creative. I don't know what I want to do.
Right. Right.
That's a filler. That's a scapegoat for actually sitting with yourself, asking yourself a question. What am I really interested in?
Yeah. And
Right?
a lot of people can make their message. I hear that a lot as well.
All the
For
time.
people
Yeah,
who
totally.
feel like they're in a super shitty situation in life and they've had a disease or a mental illness their whole life, maybe start with that. Make that your
Yeah.
passion. Make your life story your passion of your childhood, or maybe you joined a gang, or maybe some traumatic event happened to you. Maybe you can get curious as to helping others not have that same bad experience that you had in your childhood or
Yeah,
whatever.
absolutely. I would say, like, get really curious about how to solve your own problems. Take
Yes.
it back to that, like, oh, like, I don't know what to focus on. Well, it's
Yeah.
probably what you should have been focusing on in the beginning, which is
Yeah.
how to get out of this stupid situation that
Right.
I'm in, or how to actually improve upon my life. Like that one thing there will open up a door, you
Right.
know? Um, that's what I would say, that, and that brings it back to, like, bringing your house into order.
Yes.
It's always got to come back to that. No matter what the thing is, it's got to come back to that one thing. What is my pain? Essentially, you can, like, look
Yeah.
into the pain teacher philosophy.
Yeah.
What is the most
Yeah.
persistent chronic pain in my life, in my body, in my mind, in my situation that keeps showing up? You got to be curious. Like, if somebody's not curious enough to
Yeah.
actually look at that and to want to do something about it,
Yeah.
nothing else is good. That's just step one.
Yes, I know. And that's sadly not so easy for everyone, because there are a lot of people who have extreme anxiety or extreme low self-worth and low
Yeah.
self-love, and they
But
feel
that's
like
why. But that's
they'll always.
why they have it. That's where the anxiety comes from. The
Yeah.
anxiety is a feedback system from your nervous system alerting to you that there's a disarray in our
Mm,
life. Like, our body actually is the feedback mechanism for order or disorder in our life. So if you can actually treat your body, like, when something's coming up or you're feeling anxiety, first of all, take a deep breath, learn how to breathe, get interested in breathing
yeah.
first, so you can calm the nervous system. And then actually you can put your hand on your chest and just close your eyes and feel into the source of the anxiety. And I guarantee you, everybody, if they do this, everybody knows exactly what keeps them up at night. They know exactly where the fear is coming from. It's an avoidance of something. And that question, what am I interested in, is what do I avoid in my life?
Right.
That will get you right to the source, and then it's up to you to follow the message.
Right. I loved what you said there. Can you explain that one more time, what anxiety is?
Anxiety,
from the
yeah,
body.
anxiety is a feedback system from your nervous system telling you that something is either in order in your life, that's the feeling of peace, or something is out of order, it's in disarray, that's the feeling of anxiety. It's just a sensation of energy that does not feel particularly peaceful.
Right.
So it's the feedback system.
So anxiety, people who are suffering with anxiety or would like to lower their anxiety, they need to take a good, clear look at their life and figure out what's not in order.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah, that's the only way you're going to do it. I mean, you can't, it's, again, like, it's a feedback system. So if we can get to a place where we can start to treat our life and our body as a feedback system to cue us in on what's really going on, then we won't be so mental. You know, we get really in our head about things because we're avoiding the sensation of the body.
Yeah.
And I get it. We may not have the information. We may not know what to do. We may be in a stressful situation, but I can promise you, if you can look at how you got into the situation, you can find your exit strategy.
Right. Right. If I dive in a little bit heavier now on the topic of, for example, Los Angeles or Vancouver, British Columbia, where I have seen the most homeless people that I've ever seen in any Western city in the world. Like huge communities of homeless people, to the point where it's almost like living on the streets is easy for them. They have their tents set up. They have their drug system going. They're cooking for each other. They're all, you know, I guess mating each other or whatever. How is there anything that we can do? Because when I see that, and when I first saw that, it was actually in British Columbia, that like tore me apart. And I can see that everyone who lives there is a bit desensitized to it, but I've never seen that before. So when I saw it, I couldn't help but feel so bad for them. And like, I felt like it was my responsibility and other people's to figure out a way to do something and not just be like, oh, they're just homeless people. Oh, it's just a big city. This is where they go. This is where they hang out. It's like, is there anything that we can do? I'd love to know, is there anything we can do to help that situation at all?
There actually
or the government, if you have any
idea. We'll take all that out of the and just focus on what can we do. There is something amazing that we can do. When I was growing up, I grew up in the Bay Area, so I've seen this throughout my whole life, and on the streets of Oakland and San Francisco and Berkeley to a lesser extent, and here in LA with Skid Row, and all around the world. I've been all around the world, Egypt, Nicaragua. You see it all over the place in varying degrees.
Yeah.
So I was pausing for a second. I had a little brain fart there. So anyway, so I've grown up with that. I've become accustomed to it. This is where I was going with it. So one of the quotes that a friend of mine shared with me that really shifted my perspective was that the best thing I can do for poor people is not become one of them.
Right.
Now just sit with that for a second, because some people that may seem controversial, but it's actually absolutely true. I just want to say it one more time. The best thing I can do for poor people is not become one of them. Now, what that actually means is that I need to maintain a certain caliber and standard and lifestyle that maintains me, because if I drop down to the level where other people are, and you could take this with your friends that you're transitioning from, relationships, if I lower my standards and I lower my energy, I lower my vibe, I'm going to be of very little use to the people that I'm trying to help, and I will be susceptible to being pulled down into that darkness.
Right.
So that's number one. And now with that said, what can you do? there's so many things you can do, and different people are going to be called to support in different ways. You can just simply be kind. You can work in certain organizations. One thing that I did was over in Skid Row, obviously, like in LA, that's the biggest homeless society. Basically, it's like a tribe, on the side of the road.
Yeah.
I drive through there. They have parties going on. There's like music. It's tents everywhere. People
Yeah.
dancing, and it's pretty wild. But
Yeah.
one thing I did was that I was invited to speak at this boys and girls club that was in the heart of Skid Row. So I drove in there,
Yeah.
and it was pretty, it's pretty alarming to see what these kids are living in. But they were beautiful kids. That's just all they knew. They had good attitudes. They had good souls, and I was there to speak to them and
Nice.
just
How
inspire
old
them.
were they?
They're between, like, I want to say between like maybe 8 and 12, maybe something
Nice.
like that.
Nice.
And
Yeah.
I noticed, like, I spoke to them, but by engaging with them, talking to them, not so much me motivating them, but me just having a dialogue and interacting and knowing that I came out from somewhere else to be with them for that time.
Yeah.
I felt like that was a significant thing that I was doing. And that's what I think, like, and
Was
I
it
take that.
significant to them, you felt as well?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
And the main thing was, it was significant to me where I recognized that I was doing my part in that particular instance.
Right.
And I felt like it was significant to them. I feel like it was a positive seed planted where otherwise there's a bunch of, whatever else in their environment. Yeah. And you could, that kind of thing, that's what I would say to a lot of people, and translate that into a particular area that makes sense to you. Maybe your mission, I know a lot of people I know have done a lot of work to bring more of a health and awareness focus. So in a
Yeah.
vegan focus, so they'll go to, like, I don't know, like soup kitchens or some kind of thing,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
they'll support in that way. They'll bring edible food, real food to them. They'll make food
Right.
for them. They'll do soup kitchens, whatever is.
Right.
I think what's coming through here is the necessity for human connection.
Yeah. Big time. Big
Mhm.
time. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because yeah, these everybody wants to be seen,
Yeah.
no matter what your lot in life is. And in this particular example, these individuals are like the untouchables in India. They've been pushed to the side. Like, literally, these tents are skewed every so often to another block, going further down, but it doesn't, they don't disappear.
Exactly.
So
And you were saying that connection, I agree as well. Like, human connection is the cure for so many things. But then with these big homeless communities, how they all have each other. You said they're partying, they're all kind of living together in a community. They
and
have
that's
their
why they're
own
staying
connection
there.
with each other. So
That's right. I think that's why they're staying there too.
right, okay. And then if they left, they wouldn't have that sense of connection. So it makes it easier for them to stay because they have that sense
Yeah.
of connection and community.
Yeah, and obviously in these situations, we're not going to correct or fix that. That is a that is a structural problem and a moral problem of
Yeah.
the civilization itself.
And you feel that they're choosing that then, right? Like, if you
I
would
mean,
go and survey everyone
really,
living
yes.
there in that community, in those large communities of homeless people, how many of them would really say, wow, I'll do anything I can to get out of here, or this is where I belong?
Well, I'll make an example, like anyone that wants to argue that point. I mean, I have a friend, his name's Christopher Aaron, and we recently had a conversation together. He's a long time expert in fasting and raw food and plant-based living. And he was raised in similar environments. And we got into a conversation
Okay.
about homelessness. And he was
Yeah.
like, he takes people through like 40-day water fasts and stuff like that. And he was telling me, he's like, I helped cure many people of homelessness. I was like, he spoke about homelessness like a viral infection. I was like, what do you
Right.
mean you cured homelessness? And he's like, I got a number of people on fasting programs. And one guy literally made a complete turnaround. He was homeless. And then in a short amount of time, he was back in it. He was back on it. He got a job. He got himself out of the situation.
Yeah.
And I thought that was just a really interesting thing. which leads me into just a little bit of the subject around food in terms of like what people are eating and the subtle energies that are encoded in that food.
Yes.
You know, because when you think of factory farming, you think of most of animal agriculture, you think of all the components that go into it, the destruction of the rainforest, all the things we know, the atrocities of how the animals are treated. It's literally the energy of greed, of fear, shame, guilt. It's literally poison.
Torture.
It's torture. So when people are taking in that and probably have been their whole life,
right,
it does affect their behavior. It does affect their mental attitude. It affects every single thing.
I believe that 100%. You're absorbing the energy of that food. It's also, I have this Mexican place up the road that I go to, and I love their burritos. And there's one person who works there, and they put no like love or effort when I get my burrito made. They just like slap everything on there as quick as they can, and like roll it up and chuck it in your face, and like get you to go as quick as you can. And I cannot order a burrito that day if that person's working. Like I need someone who like slowly puts things together, and you can taste there's just like, so it's not only how the food is grown, like, you know, factory farming or is it organic, but it's like how you cook the food, how you present your own food. Like, are you shoving food in your mouth because you're in a rush and you're like driving somewhere, or are you actually like taking the time to sit down and be grateful and appreciate the taste and the flavor and the energy you're absorbing from the food? I believe that 100%.
Yeah, totally. Great example. And I think the underlining point of that story was not only were those individuals completely abstaining from food and drinking water, which in of itself is a prosperity creating thing, to abstain from the things that weigh us down and create that kind of poverty consciousness. To abstain from that is an activity of willpower. It strengthens somebody's spirit. And I think if you want to go down the spiritual road, I think it's totally appropriate. I think that's actually what happens with some people, is something inside of them comes fully online.
Yeah.
And that shifts our reality. That shifts where our interests go. That shifts where we go. And it can help take somebody out of an environment, because all of a sudden their vibration starts to come online and they start to feel good. Their mind opens up, and all of a sudden they're like, well, I gotta get the heck out of here. Like, what am I doing? They basically wake up.
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
Like it's, again, because it's not about money. It's an attitude. It's an energy.
Yes.
The energy of poverty is an insidious, I would even say it's evil. Like the energy, not poor people are evil. The energy of poverty is evil, and it's dark.
Yes.
And so somebody actually has to liberate themselves energetically first in order for everything else to happen. But they have to get themselves out of that environment. And the energy of poverty, if you liken it to the energy of evil, from my interpretation, it's sticky. It's sticky, it's mucky. It's like if you've ever felt stuck, or like you can't quite move, like that's what that energy is.
Yeah.
And so you got to find a way to get unstuck.
Yeah.
Because your environment is informing you nonstop about your reality. So you got to find a way to get out of there.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And you were saying before how you had this chat. Were they homeless children, adolescents?
They were in not a foster home, but they were in, like, they basically all stayed at that, whatever that organization was, the Boys and Girls Club or whatever it was. Right. They had parents, like, I mean, everyone varying degrees. Like, I don't know the history of every one of them. You had little kids that seemed like that was where they hung out.
Right.
So there was like support, there was like there was like counselors or whatever, but the actual physical environment itself was energetically very, very low. But you could tell, like, these children, their spirit still was
quite light
there.
and innocent, right?
Yeah. So doing whatever we can to nurture that and to give back to that, because, you know, the rose that grows out of the concrete is infinitely is stronger and more resilient than the rose that grows in you know, the ideal garden. So those children have the seeds that can come online to support those in their own environment.
Yeah. Yeah. So things like that would help. When I go back to the question of things that we can do to help
Yeah.
homeless people is actually go, and you were saying at the beginning that education, how powerful education is. So going there and having talks to these people, which
Give
I
them a
don't know
book,
how
leave
many,
them something. Don't just talk to them, leave them something.
right?
Get them, whether it's this book or it's other books, get them something and give it
Right.
out to them. Give something, like leave them something that now that you've opened their mind,
Yeah.
give them something that they can put their mind into.
Yes.
Like, I think for me, the big thing is dignity. I want
Right.
to make sure that every human being I come in contact with feels dignified within my interaction. I don't want to demoralize somebody, to judge
Right.
somebody, to
Right.
make someone feel less than. It's not my, but the thing is, I've had to learn this. It's not my responsibility for someone to change their life. That's not a burden I'm willing to bear.
Right.
So I walk through my life with that understanding, and certain moments might come over me where, like, I have $5 or I have $10, and
Yeah.
somebody just approaches me at that moment, and I feel the sincerity of that person,
Yes.
and that's when that might be the way that I give,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So you got to just feel your way through the process.
Yes. Interesting.
And,
Okay.
and and one last thing I'll just say too, I think it's not appropriate for anybody to carry any guilt about any of it either, because that's not our burden to bear. And every single soul that's incarnated on the planet has a unique imprint, has a unique destiny, has a
Yeah.
unique set of lessons.
Yeah.
I don't think that we should be feeling guilty. I don't think guilt is not really a useful thing
Right.
anyways.
Right.
So if you're feeling like that,
Yes.
like just feel into where that's coming from. That's most likely coming from the indoctrination of society to keep you divided within yourself, where you feel like you're never doing enough, you're not doing enough for other people,
Right.
relationships, whatever it is. Just be, I try to give from a spirit of giving. And if I don't feel that inside myself, I can either start to feel that, or it just might not be appropriate for me at that time, because I have my own life I need to take care of.
Yes. Interesting.
Mhm.
Yeah, that was really good that you touched on for us not to feel guilty. But then again, I don't want people to think that turning a blind eye is like necessarily the right thing to do either.
Right, but that's not right. So just
Right.
we're not doing that though. That's why we're having this conversation, to create
Exactly.
a little more awareness and expansiveness around it. Um, yeah, if you do feel guilt, then engage with it, but don't allow that to become a motivating factor. If you're
Okay.
truly motivated to help people, then help people because you want to.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a really good key point as well. All right. Is there anything else that I haven't asked you about that you feel you need to touch on before we?
Yeah. One last thing I'll touch on real quick here is, so I talked about the phenomena of poverty. So what I'd really love to plant a seed for everybody is to look into a book called Wetiko, Dispelling the Curse of Evil. That's what the book is called.
Okay.
And it's one of the most fascinating reads I've ever kind of gone down the rabbit hole with. And basically what the Wetiko is that was the Native American term that they used to describe the phenomenon of the conquistadors, the Europeans
Yeah.
that came over, and they started to observe them like a parasite. They noticed that they weren't giving back, that they
Right.
were kind of just like selfish, they were bickering, they brought disease over,
Yeah.
and we know what happened from there, right? It was a parasitic energy. So and every single culture in the world has a term for this phenomenon. It's a
Okay.
parasitic energy. That's why when he said it's like a viral infection, I was like, whoa, that's
Mm,
spot on, because the phenomenon of poverty is a parasitic infection of the mind, which probably people have riddled with physical parasites too.
yeah.
Which is why when we do cleansing and we do parasite cleansing, we clean out the colon through colon hydrotherapy, we get on more living foods and more liquids and things like that. Those parasites, we remove those parasites, all of a sudden something changes up here.
Right.
Everything starts to change up here. And that's why it's really hard sometimes to just give direct, actionable advice.
Yes.
Because a lot of it's the byproduct.
Yeah.
Like prosperity and money and all that, that's the byproduct, but we have to get to what's getting in the way of that. So I want to make that mention too, that, you know, for the way that Wetiko works is that it tries to project itself in the outer world and to get us to consciously focus on the projection and keep us from looking at what is actually going on inside of us.
Yeah.
So whenever we're blaming, we're shaming, we're complaining, we're pointing fingers, that is a direct feedback that there's something inside of us that actually it's the exact same thing. Like we're carrying that energy, but it's causing us to look outside of us, at the world, at all the problems in the world.
Yeah.
But we actually have to turn the magnifying glass on inside to see what is operating there, so we can understand. We do the work on ourselves so we can understand what is going on in the world and what other people are going through underneath the surface. And that's the only way we'll have insight to know how to help people without just giving them Band-Aids. Like, right, we can give people Band-Aids all day long.
Okay.
But it's going to, and that's what our government does. That's what the whole thing does. And we've seen that the problem has only gotten worse over time. So how do we empower people? Each person has to find their unique method for doing that. But the first and foremost is that we have to uncover those little nooks and crannies inside of us that are out of order. Then we'll be better equipped to go into the world and, you know, be a beneficial presence, be a force of love. You know, and not really trying to fix anything, but trying to empower people, trying to inspire people, make sure people feel seen, they feel like a human being, they feel valued. The more we value ourselves, the more we're able to, you know, value others.
That's so true. Yeah. Yeah. And the more we understand ourselves, the more we can understand others.
That's been my journey.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you so much. That's big topic we covered today. Thank you.
Yeah, I feel good. I feel like we were able to hit probably what feels like most important. I hope this was helpful for the audience. I know when I was thinking about this, like, geez, this is a huge topic. There's a lot of directions, but I think you held the container really, really well, and I'm glad we did this.
Yeah, thank you so much. I love having you on the show. Thank you, Ronnie.
Awesome. My pleasure.
Great. Thank you. Have a good evening.
You too.
Bye.